Welcome, boys and girls. Costin here with a discussion about Archaon, the Ever-Chosen, or the Never-Chosen in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires, who really should be the main character of Lords of the End Times, though if we look at the actual lore of the End Times, Nagash played a pretty big role, and Archaon was kind of a side character in that. I mean, even the Bringer of the End Times ended up being a secondary character in the single most important event that he was created for. That shouldn't be the case. Yes, that is on Games Workshop for messing it up, but hopefully Creative Assembly will be doing things better. Or worse, you never know how Creative Assembly is going to handle these things. But what I want to explore in this video is how they could handle some things very well if they're interested. Certainly, there's plenty of people that are going to be watching this video who are going to be saying, oh, Creative Assembly is not going to do anything. Well, that's their choice. I'm just here to give a message. Whether or not they listen to that, that's their own choice. It would not be a wise decision to ignore one of the few content creators on the platform who's still trying to give you honesty at the moment, Creative Assembly. I know how these things work, I'm not naive, but all the same, that's the problem. A lot of the times that I've called things out, if we look at Tides of Torment, for instance, or the Kislev rework quote-unquote chance to change, or when I expect the chance to change to be a smoking pile of dirt, it turned out to be true. That's because, if you want to know something about myself, I've studied a lot of history, and history teaches us lessons. Ignore history, you repeat it, and a lot of people don't care to study history in the first place, because it's boring. Well, I found it fascinating. So speaking about fascinating things, let's talk about Archaon. What are the things that Creative Assembly could do in his campaign to make it amazing? Really amazing. Well, if we consider his current dynamic in the race, and we should talk about the actual Warriors of Chaos. The problem with Warriors of Chaos, something that Radius Total War actually fixes, is that you don't really have unit recruitment, you have upgrades and warbands. Warbands can be great, but we should have unit recruitment. Even if it's just literally 2 slots of recruitment, being able to recruit units regularly and in one turn, as opposed to relying on warband, would be freaking amazing. Because he's supposed to be leading Warriors of Chaos. He's not supposed to have every single damn army starting as Marauders and then going from there. Now, the bigger problem is Archaon as a threat for anyone to deal with. Well, his AI is kind of pathetic. Part of the issue is his starting position over here in the Blood Marshes, so he's very vulnerable to Boris Xerxes wiping him out if you're playing him. He's very vulnerable to Malachi if you're playing him, etc. But on top of that, he doesn't have guaranteed faction potential. Now, based on what Creative Assembly has stated very publicly on the subject of the end times, they're going to have those endgame events. I'm skeptical that Creative Assembly is going to do well with those. Maybe they will. Who knows? Maybe all of us can be very pleasantly surprised at some point. But one of the things that Creative Assembly needs to understand, the current game as it's played, the first 20 or 30 turns are the ones that matters most. Everything else is just pointless grind. Now, that is what they need to fix in Lords of the End Times. They need to have reasons for people to actually give a damn to play a campaign longer. Because very rarely in Total War have we had a reason. And I'm talking here about the entire history of the franchise. That's not a condemnation on the playstyle a lot of people have, because a lot of people do play longer campaigns. That's more so a judgment, if you will, on how Total War has been played. Realm Divide didn't work, Attila didn't work, the Endgame Crisis of Warhammer 1, 2 doesn't work, the Endgame Crises of Warhammer 3 don't work. So what they've talked about is gradual end time events, which I think would be great. So the way that could work is you start a campaign, maybe you can pick which factions are going to be powerful, like Undead, for instance, or maybe it's just purely randomized. Maybe it's all of them at once, like everyone gets really powerful. That would be the ultimate end times. Like Undead get powerful, Skaven get powerful, even the Order Tide gets powerful, and suddenly everyone is fucking fighting for their lives. Wouldn't that be a juicy, funny campaign where it's like, yeah, this is an event, this can happen, but how about if all of these things happen? How about Lustria gets destroyed while the Empire is invaded by Skaven? How about the Dwarves face the full wrath of the Skaven while the Chaos Dwarves are facing Grimgore? I mean, they're already facing Grimgore, let's just put it like that bluntly. That is why Archaon is so important, because he is pivotal in how they can achieve that. There's a mod out there that does Archaon very, very, very well. In that it's a mod, I'll link it in the description, that makes Archaon's campaign that much better. Basically, he gets a lot of unit recruitment, he uses warband upgrades, which by the way the AI doesn't do, and the AI should do, I should add. And on top of that, when he gets like, what is rank 20, confederates every single cast faction in the game and becomes ridiculously strong and unstoppable. Maybe he shouldn't do that. Maybe it should be more gradual, and maybe you can stop him from doing that. So for instance, quest battles, I'm not really fond of quest battles because by default you can't auto-resolve them, and they're fun once, not so fun on 20 fucking playthroughs. But some kind of thing, some kind of trigger where you could stop his rise to power. Or just kill him if you're playing Boris Ursus, because that's the thing. Boris Ursus can just literally kill him before he gets rank 15. But if you're playing Archaon, or randomized if he's being played by the AI, once he gets to, like, say, rank 15, or once he accumulates enough resources, you could look at the dwarves for a system like that, where it's like, you do things, you get grudges, with grudges you can confederate legendary lords. Maybe that's something Creative Assembly should use in Archaon's campaign, that kind of system in a campaign. You go do things, you fight Order-Tide factions, you get souls, and then you can use those souls, or another resource on top of that unique to Archaon, which you can then spend on various things. What should you spend it on? Well, confederating other cast factions. Not just Warriors of Caste, but every single cast faction. Like, for instance, you have got two factions right next to you. You got Arbol, and you got Tamarkan. Imagine if you could spend the resources on getting either Tamarkan as Warriors of Caste, and I know that sounds fucking ridiculous, or Kolic, or Arbol. Not minor factions, major fucking factions. And they become Warriors of Caste. Maybe Warriors of Caste minor settlements should actually be minor settlements. Because, again, Radius does that very well. Because they do have proper minor settlements as opposed to the vassalization bullshit that we have. Archaon doesn't do vassalization in real lore. He conquers and bends everyone to his will. He literally does that. Like, Swords of Chaos, the Regiment of Renown he has, it's like they're so controlled by him that they no longer have their own wills. Of course, there's problems in that particular system when, you go too far. So maybe there should be a balancing point. Like, you can force a faction to follow you, but you should also give them a choice of following you. And if you give them a choice, if you say do a regular confederation, maybe that costs less resources. If you're forcing them to follow you, you maybe get a weaker legendary lord than Tamarkan, Kolic, but you do still get them, and they're still pretty powerful. So that would be the choice. Natural buildup of relationship, though not regular diplomacy or confederation, but just two different systems. A harmony system, if you will, where you are actually helping these factions, giving them resources, giving them stuff, doing quest battles or things for them, various things, or spending some resources to give them aid. And if that's so, they are willing to join you willingly. If you force them to join you, then you're creating a kind of problem where they will be weaker because crushing their will is not ideal. Again, look at Swords of Chaos. That is the issue. When you force people to follow you, even in real life, really, as opposed to giving them a choice, you're not going to get the full package deal. And you shouldn't, in video game terms. You shouldn't. I mean, that's the balance point that Archaon actually did play very well within the actual lore event times. Because he had the power to force everyone to his will. He did not force everyone to his will. He gave them a choice, and a lot of people that followed him did so willingly. And that's why he won in the end. And he didn't even force anyone who was incapable of staying there. Like, you look at Kolic and Cetra, right? Kolic was proving to be a problem in the end time, so Archaon was like, okay, Cetra, you're here? You want to prove yourself? Go there, kill that fucking bastard, and then I'll accept you. Though, of course, it's not ideal that he did so, and so Archaon made a mistake there. Maybe there's, again, harmony. You can look at the Kislev supporter system, or what the Cafe Harmony system should fucking be like. Some faction-wide meter where you balance it out and you get negatives. Maybe it could be a faction-wide meter, where it's like if you push your will too much on people, if you push these factions to follow you for, say, money or whatever resource, then you have significant negatives. But if you are instead doing so slowly, gradually build up, then you get positives. That would go a long way towards solving a lot of the endgame problems. And also, please allow us, for the love of God, to actually do these quest battles auto-resolve. Like, just quest battles auto-resolve in general should be a baseline of the fucking game. Creative Assembly, I know. It's like, oh, but we designed these fucking battles. You should actually play them. Okay, let me put it like this. If you want to, Stop forcing people to play those battles. Modders don't give a shit, and half the player base, or 90% of the player base, does not care about your quest battles beyond once. Some don't even ever play them to begin with, really. It's always annoying as a content creator. You get the DLC, right, before it comes out. And all those DLCs have quest battles in them. To get the full package experience, you need to fight them. But when you're a content creator, you always have to you have to test things out. You don't just do one campaign, you do 20. And that's, by the way, an issue for QA testers, I bet, as well. Like, obviously, they have probably some internal auto-resolve mod. Like, Legend of Total War said that a lot of those mods actually did come from QA testers, like better camera, auto-resolve. Why aren't they baseline? Let me ask you this. Why aren't those things baseline? Oh, right, because we have a vision of the game and we must force our vision of the game. For the love of God, CA, stop with the stupid. You cannot create a player base that's sustainable and dynamic and good if you force people to use mods. Because a lot of people don't want to use mods. That's the thing. And you need to stop copy-pasting mods. You need to stop looking at my ideas, create your own, and understand how your people play the game. Because you don't play your own game. That's the problem. QA testers do. Some developers do, I think. But the vast majority of developers in Creative Assembly do not play their own games. I know this for a fact because I've talked with former CA developers who have told me this for a fact. Legend of Total War has talked to plenty of people who are still in the company. He also has stated there's plenty of people that have talked with actual genuine CA developers and they say this over and over and over again. And isn't that a systemic issue within Creative Assembly as a whole? That the people making the game are not the ones playing it. And I might have the right ideas here. I might have the wrong ideas. I'm not a game developer. But isn't that what's broken about all of this? That Creative Assembly doesn't play their own game and then relies on Reddit upvotes and content creators to get good feedback because, again, they don't understand their own game. Or if they do play it, it's like, oh, a 100-turn campaign is good. You have 20,000, 30,000 active concurrent players every moment of every day in the game. I'm not saying those people know the game better than you do. I'm saying they do at least play it more so they have a better grasp of what works. Like, look at the multiplayer community. They have the best grasp because multiplayer PvP campaigns force you to actually use all the tools. And it's very broken, by the way. Like, the game is broken. Simultaneous turns, desyncs, etc. And certain factions literally are completely banned from multiplayer, like Arbol, because they're so damn ridiculous and broken that no one wants to deal with the Changeling in multiplayer. And it's supposed to be like, oh, the Changeling is a good co-op campaign. It is a terrible multiplayer campaign, in point of fact. Ask anyone in the multiplayer community, they'll confirm this very exact sentiment. No one wants to deal with the fucking Changeling in multiplayer. No one. The very campaigns that you might think are a good experience for it end up being the worst experience for it. The best campaigns are actually ones not strictly designed for it. Like, one good example you can think of, like, Forgrim is a good campaign, Malachi not so much, but Forgrim is a good campaign. Carl France is a very good campaign, for instance. Others as well. It's those kind of balanced middle-of-the-road campaigns. That's why I've pushed the idea of, like, some kind of negatives, upsides when you're playing a campaign. Because that's how you stop becoming ridiculous bullshit and actually have a good campaign in your hands. That's what Malachi does very well. He's really good for single player. Though, of course, no one wants to play against him multiplayer, at least if they're starting next to him. Though he's acceptable, funnily enough. Like, that's the thing. Malachi is so finely tuned, so well designed as a campaign that a lot of people look at him and say, yeah, we'll hate dealing with one of his armies, but it's just one army, right? But even that's a problem because you made one army overpowered for every player and then everyone else kind of, not as much because they are not horde armies, so still some balancing, some tweaking in respect to that. That's all I had to say. Costin signing out.